need to get going, Mel. See you later.
There you go. Sneaky First. It's the new advert from Nextstand, who are one of the sponsors of this live broadcast this afternoon. And I'm joined by Mike from PostureWorx.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Mike.
Hiya.
So I labelled this as, let's talk about why do people need a posture expert? What is this thing, posture, for a start? I mean, maybe we even need to go back into that, because I don't know that everybody understands what posture means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly. So, well, basically, what we're looking at really is how our body wants to move and what it wants to do to feel good. And unfortunately, a lot of the things we do nowadays don't suit what our body was designed for. So working with screens, technology, handheld devices, and our body will generally adapt to the positions we're in the most often for the longest period of time. So as you can imagine, a lot of the time nowadays is spent using these devices for our work. And unfortunately, since the pandemic has happened, that has led a lot of people to kind of be working too much throughout the day because they haven't got that necessary break almost from office and work. It's become as now the name is for, it's hybrid. And it's just making sure that we understand what our body needs rather than just the work to be done, because it's trying to almost put your well-being a little bit higher up on your list of priorities. Rather than just thinking I need to work more. What kind of things do we need to look at from our back, our shoulders, our neck, all these different areas of our bodies that are normally affected. And they're probably telling us already, those areas are giving us tension headaches, upper back pain, shoulder pain. We are probably getting those issues, but we have developed a way of kind of working through them and just sort of taking it as par for the course and just saying, well, we're going to get a tension headache now and again. We're going to get a bit of back pain. It's just that comes with the territory. I'm working at home or I'm in and out of the office occasionally, and it's just going to happen. And really what a posture expert or what someone like us would do is kind of almost get you to rethink that slightly and actually take your well-being and a few simple steps and things you could probably do throughout the day and then incorporate that into your own lifestyle. So that's really kind of the kind of things us guys do. Yeah.
Now, you used the term posture expert, which is great. And I'm want to cover off one thing, which is that probably since this pandemic started and everybody was working from home and people have been locked onto LinkedIn and platforms like this and looking at all of the information out there, it must seem like everybody's a posture expert, because there's loads and loads of information out there. But just tell us, where did you study or what did you do to get to this point?
Yeah, so all of my team are qualified personal fitness trainers and or sports therapists. So, the team around me, a small team, we'd say a posture expert, in our opinion, is someone who you would have gone to irrelevant of the pandemic or working at a screen. And it's actually separate from the DSE workstation assessment side of things. So the expertise should be the body, health and fitness, physios, sports therapists, personal trainers, those kind of guys that have then gone on and done ergonomics training. So that's the background you should look for. So that could be anybody in theory, but all we've done is we've found there's a huge gap in the market where you've got a qualified fitness and health professional with their own insurance. They've got medical insurance. They can then give advice, but then they go on the additional training to give advice on ergonomics and setup and those kind of things. And really, that's what people should be looking for.
That's interesting. So just from your own personal journey, I mean, before you got involved in desk setups, etc., what sort of advice were you giving before that?
So I ran a sports therapy clinic. So I had a sports therapy clinic, and before that I was an educator for a personal training course. So at the very beginning I was a personal trainer myself. So I went and actually trained personal trainers around the UK. So that was my job. I was a lecturer for the qualification you would do. So if Graham Coath decided I want to become a personal fitness trainer, I'll do a course. You do a 6-month course, and I would have been your tutor basically. So that was my previous job. And then following that, as I say, opened up the sports therapy clinic to help with back pain, neck pain, all the usual things you associate with that. But then 5-6 years ago, just noticed that there really wasn't the support in business for these kind of issues. It was quite separated. You'd have, I'm getting back pain. Okay, do I need to speak to occupational health, or do I need a new chair, or who do I speak to? How does this work? And then a lot of the time we'd be seeing people in the clinic that would come in and say, oh yeah, I get a lot of tension headaches, can you help me? And say, yeah, no problem. We'd do the work, the physical manual therapy on them, give them the exercises, and say, right, go away. And they'd come back maybe in sort of 2-3 months. Hey, I've got some improvement, but it starts to creep back in again. What do you think it is? So we'd have a bit more of a chat, go through a bit more clinical history, and just find out it's actually the working practices and how they were working, which wasn't their company's fault necessarily. It was more likely they were just taking it upon themselves to have to work that many hours in that position. So then from there, we decided to create PostureWorx, as I say, 6 years ago, and try and solve those problems, really.
Yeah, do you know what? When I first started in the workplace assessment arena as well, I don't know whether you remember, but there were all of those posters with people sitting at right angles, and I used to go and see people, and there's nothing wrong with that per se, because actually it's meant to be a reference posture in terms of whether you fit the furniture. But you know, I used to go and see so many people that used to go, I've got dreadful backache, and it's because I've sat like that all day.
Yeah, and that's the key point, Graham. As you just said there, I've sat like that all day. And if you sit like anything all day, you're going to get problems, aren't you? If you stand all day in the same position, you know, there's a lot of confusion at the moment with the sit-stand stuff. You know, we do one-to-one sessions with companies and individuals, and we found that a lot of them are, well, I've just now switched to standing, but I'm getting lower back pain. I was having upper back pain when I was sitting too much, and it was just the pure fact they were trying to do too much work in one position, not moving enough, not doing the right lifestyle breaks, activity breaks through the day, all these little things. They didn't have that kind of frame around their working practices. So that's more of it, I would say, you know, rather than being able to sit and work for 8 hours or stand and work for 8 hours. It's what do you do in those 8 hours, and how can you make your body feel better as part of your working day, really? Yeah. A good point. That 1990 thing is a bit outdated, isn't it, really?
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, this is an area I know a little bit about. My sister's a sports massage therapist. She's a trained sports massage therapist to level 4, I think it is.
Excellent.
And you know, I used to run my own practice, and it was called Back Happy, and just with reference to that, I used to have T-shirts with Back Happy on, and the slogan underneath used to be, "My favourite position is the next one." A little bit innuendo-y, but you know,
it's good. It's great. It's memorable. Yeah,
it made the point. You know, at the end of the day, why just adopt the same position all day long? What, you know, be thinking about movement and getting out there. So, and I think that's one of the things that I want to try and get out in this half an hour or so that we're on, which is that, you know, see so many people looking at all of this different advice that's out there in terms of, you know, setting up your desk and how to do it, etc. But what really I think people are really looking for is lifestyle information.
Definitely.
I think people want to know, how can I live a healthy, happy life where when I go to work, you know, I don't experience any aches and pains. You know, outside of work, I can reach down and tie my shoes without it hurting. You know, I can go and play five-a-side football at the weekend. You know, I can run about with the children.
Exactly.
It's a lifestyle choice. And is that what you help people with as well?
Yeah, it's trying to understand that there isn't a difference, and there's not a shut-off time, as in if you finish work at 5, for example, you don't suddenly then change your body type and your body shape, and the damage you've done over the last 7 hours or 8 hours or 9 hours doesn't just disappear. And it's understanding that it's all one lifestyle. Your work is your lifestyle. What you do in your work is your lifestyle. As you say, your weekends, your evenings, your breakfast. You get up and commute? Have you made a fake commute because you're now not in the office and you still get up and get on your bike and come back to the office, which is your house? You know, little things. What are you doing that actually help you to understand that your day is your day? Whether it's a 2-hour chunk of having some meetings, or it's doing some program design, or it's doing, you know, anything as part of your day is your whole day, isn't it? Your sleep, your exercise, your habits, what you do in work, they're all joined. You know, you don't wake up the next day and have a new body. Unfortunately, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? But it doesn't happen. Yeah.
Do you think that is one of the issues, though? Do you think people try to decompartmentalize their lives a little bit too much and go, that's work?
Exactly.
This is play, and you know, it's one of the things we were talking about in the Next Stand meeting yesterday. Was just this whole concept of work-life balance, and actually, is it really work-life balance?
Doesn't exist. Because
that actually talks about, almost feels like one thing's a negative and one thing's a positive.
Exactly.
You know,
whereas
you can't offset
them.
No, shouldn't
really
it all be positive?
It is, yeah, exactly. It's an old school approach, Graham, 100%. And again, I've talked about this a lot before, that there is no such thing as a work-life balance. It's just a life balance, and that's what it is. And that's your life, and your work is part of your life, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think if we could, people could rephrase that, reframe it, and just almost just forget the work-life balance and just your life balance. How much is your work part of your life? Yeah, it's a big part for some people. It's less part for others, but it's a part for most people, isn't it? We could say. So then what are they doing with that work part in their lifestyle, and how does it affect their body? And that's really the key things that we would do. And as I say, you obviously understand yourself as well. It's what are you doing in your working day, and keeping that the same kind of idea to what you'd be doing if you weren't working anyway. So you go out for a nice walk at the weekend. Why aren't you going for a nice walk at lunchtime in between some meetings? There's no difference, it's not so much an hours of clock on, clock off kind of scenario. Most people are quite flexible. So I'd say, yeah, great point. It's life balance, not work-life balance.
Give a shout out to someone else that regularly posts on LinkedIn, which this is going out on. Rory Berry, who coaches people in terms of mental health, etc. I mean, he does these wonderful posts every day out from somewhere in the countryside. So he takes a daily walk somewhere, and he does these mindful moments where he just shows people a bit of the countryside. The better thing, though, would be that you don't look at Rory's posts of the countryside, but you go yourself.
Exactly. That's the thing. That it should be like almost a prompt, shouldn't it? Oh yeah, I really should be doing more of that. And it's actually implementing and being intentional is the missing part we find, which is why we have a slight, I wouldn't say advantage, but a slight kind of extra, where a company might say, here's some great things you need to be doing, or people even at their home might be thinking, I really should get out more, or I should be doing more stuff, but they need someone, unfortunately, to kind of almost prompt them and give them that intentional action they need to take. So a lot of it is just, making the plan, delivering on it yourself, being accountable to yourself, and really putting that your well-being much higher up in your list of priorities through the day, really.
Yeah. So instead of people being overwhelmed by all of this, or kicking back against it because they think, well, this is health and safety, right? This is someone coming along and schooling me and telling me what it is that I need to do and how it is that I should live my life, right?
Yep.
How should people be thinking about this? Is it in terms of increased productivity, increase health throughout their life, etc.? What's the mental shift that people need to be making?
Yeah, the mental shift really is the fact that you should feel energetic about what you do in the day. And ideally, if your job, I mean, not everyone loves their job, I do, you do, and we know loads of people that do, but some people don't. But the point is, if you feel better and you feel happier in your work, that's your day. We've just talked about it, haven't we? We just said there is no work-life balance, it's just your life. So if you're letting part of your life, and a big part of it, 50 hours a week, become a bit of a grind, you're in a bit of discomfort, your back hurts, you feel tired, if you can make that better, those 50 hours of your life are now better, aren't they? So I would almost tell people, because the old school approach, as you rightly say, was, you need to do this, tick the box, so we can just make sure you can work harder. It's not like that anymore. Companies and people have got a different approach generally because of the pandemic. Hopefully something good out of it is that the approach is now generally, I need to feel good for myself through my working day, through my life. And things like just taking a bit of time, putting some intentional activities to make yourself feel better would make a big difference to your overall life, not just your work. So I'd say, that's a way of thinking about it. Yeah.
What sort of bad habits have you seen develop over this pandemic period with people working from home?
Yeah. So the worst, the most prevalent, which makes it the worst, unfortunately, is just the back-to-back meetings in front of a screen without a break. And sometimes it's an organizational cultural thing. We've seen it a little bit. So you can chat with them, and the guys actually then start to realize it wasn't something they intended upon. Companies didn't suddenly go, right, now there's a pandemic, we're now all just going to have back-to-back meetings. It was not, it's definitely something they didn't plan on that, but it just happened. No one really knows why. People just started having meeting after meeting after meeting. Chunks of work just started, getting put into people's diaries, and it was just back to back. So actually, we found people have a habit of they were getting up and clicking on. It might be logging into their emails, it might be clicking on to the project they're working on, but kind of clicking on too early and almost starting work just because you're there. You know, and that's a really bad habit, a massively bad habit. And that's something that's an easy one to solve by, we've just said it's part of your life, but you also need to consider, do you need to do something else as well as that to make it less like you're just going to get up, click the button, laptop's there, you're in your spare room, off you go, and you just start work. And then you stay there till lunch, grab a quick cup of coffee and a sandwich, sit back down again and do the same thing till 4, 5, 6, you know, log off and do a little bit of yoga or something to try and make up for the rest of the work you've just done. So I'd say that's the worst one, is the back-to-back meetings, not allowing people to, you know, actually the advice on that one is to be intentional with your breaks, not take them when you just feel like you need to go to the loo. It's actually intentionally putting in what you'd call an activity break. So that's one of our favorites. Call it an activity break. Put it in 10 minutes in between your meetings or in between your work projects. And it reminds you to actually, that's your appointment with you. Sounds odd, but then you're going to say, right, well, I need to make sure I do some exercises, have a walk, you know, do some stretches, whatever it might be. And then you've now got breaks to go to rather than only taking them when you feel you need it. Yeah, so that's probably the worst habit, I'd say. The overworking syndrome, really.
Now, there may be people listening to that go, yeah, I understand that. And I think that's great advice. And that's exactly how I would like it to be.
Yeah.
But actually, they would then kick back and say, well, but the reason that this has happened is because my management, you know, are kind of insisting upon it because they're controlling the diary, they're putting the meetings in there, etc.
Yeah,
so how important is it for you as an organization that you when you start this journey at that management level and get the management buy-in to the whole process?
Yeah, exactly. So there's two ways of looking at it. You've got the whole process regards to the employee, the user, we'd call it, you know, the user of whatever device or whatever advice we're giving, and then the kind of implementation of that from their bosses and the company. And I'd say it would have to be a pretty backwards approach now. You know, you guys and everybody on LinkedIn now hopefully understands the ethos and the overall culture of companies has had a massive shift over the last year, hasn't it? Which is fantastic. Again, we've got to try and take the positives out, and that is one of them. You know, it is a new dawn. It sounds a bit dramatic and a bit big.
It's true.
It really is. And companies, if they're not actually going to focus on that change and go, this is great, we can really implement some new stuff here. And in the long run, everybody knows if they're good managers, good directors, good leadership team, then they'd understand that the way forward now is to actually engage with staff and get them guys to feel positive about what they do, and they're way more productive anyway. They really are. So I would say the funny thing is if someone pushes back to us, I'd encourage them to push back again to why that is a problem. You know, so well within, I don't like using the word rights because it sounds very dramatic and kind of law abiding, but actually you've got to have a chat with people. You know, you've got to be honest. Being honest is the first thing. Just say, look, I'm struggling here. It's, whoa, this is a lot of work. You know, back-to-back meetings is hard work. I don't know if I can manage this ongoing and still be really productive and do what I want to do for the company. And I'm sure if you said it in that way, you'd have to be a pretty hard-nosed sort of old-school manager to go, no, we're doing it. It's normally someone else is telling that manager you've got to do it as well, isn't it? So, yeah, it's an organizational problem. But then if that's still an issue, which hopefully it wouldn't be, I'd tell them to be honest and, you know, push this up the chain as quick as possible. But if not, it is just trying to make sure your workstation is as good as it can be, you know. So again, like next stand, like how to position yourself, and then at least you are offsetting the problem slightly. So it is trying to have some good habits with how you work, because if you are going to have to work long hours, at least it's not as bad. That would almost be my backup approach. But the first approach is definitely to be honest, and just if there's a reason we're talking about it now, it must be something that needs to be sorted out, isn't it? You know, and that workload, is a big one.
Oh, absolutely. You just find, I mean, you mentioned earlier on DSE, which is display screen equipment assessments, which are, a part of HSE guidelines. It's a recommendation that every company carries those out with their employees, etc. But as you say, you're separating out from that really. In a way, what you're preaching is sort of company culture change first and change at the individual. You could presumably, though, you can do the DSE as part of that process.
100%. Yeah.
So that the box is ticked from a health and safety perspective, but actually it starts at the right level as opposed to the wrong level, which is let's do the tick box exercise first and then fight the fire.
Yeah, you're going backwards, aren't you? And we're never going to get another chance potentially to make some big changes like this, you know. So it's whenever I speak to any organization or even individuals in organizations, it's trying to say, look, now is the best time to, if you're going to make any changes, do it now, really. You've got the hybrid policies coming out, flexible working procedures and policies, and it's a great time to do it, really. Because then it means individuals that are working hard can actually have a better lifestyle, as we said right at the beginning of this session today, really, where it's getting rid of that work-life thing and just creating a whole, meaningful life while you're working. Yeah,
absolutely. We have a comment which I want to bring up from Greg's whiskey guide. I don't exactly. I don't know what your take is on whiskey drinking. Maybe not at this time of the day.
Well, yeah? I'm a fan. Maybe later.
But yeah. Maybe later on in the day. Very interesting. I'll say the difference with working at home and working in the office is that nobody will tell you, "Hey, I feel like taking a cup of coffee and go outside. Are you in?"
Yeah,
I think he's right there. But I think even as we transition back and some companies move back towards the office, we've got to, we've got to treat people a little bit more like humans, going back into that office space as well. Anyway, and understand that not everybody is built to sit at a desk all day like a robot and churn. You do need that space. I mean, from my own perspective, as a creative, I think it's fundamental that I see something else of the world.
Definitely. Yeah.
I mean, that might sound a little bit romantic, but at the end of the day, if I don't go out and have a walk occasionally, or go to the shop occasionally and see other people, or just interact with it, even though it's at a distance at the moment, and just see things going on, my brain can't necessarily put the effort in creatively when I then sit back down at the computer.
Exactly. As you say, that comment about your next posture is your best posture, as we kind of talked about. It's hard to do that if you are in a kind of fixed environment. So the more freedom which we give our bodies and our work, which is now, as we're talking about, the flexible hybrid type of working procedure, whether it's at home or whether it's in the office, because you'll know as well, offices have changed quite a bit over the years, haven't they? And the whole process of making the individual comfortable, because some people are more introverted and they actually are quite happy at home on their own and not talking to people at the office. And then you get other people that are, want to be in the office and communicating all day, but having the option to do both is fantastic. But the overriding thing at the end of it, from our point of view and what we give advice on, is you can't do any of that with discomfort very well.
No.
If you're getting headaches and your back hurts, then there's something wrong somewhere. And that would be just the piece on that posture and kind of making sure you're as good as you can be to work, really. Yeah.
And I know it's not necessarily your expertise area, but how many people do you see that have aches and pains, particularly physical aches and pains, but in part of it then manifests itself in terms of kind of mental illness or anxiety or discomfort in that way as well?
A hell of a lot, Graham. Yeah, I mean, back pain, fundamentally, one of the precursors to back pain sometimes is mental health issues. Your body can manifest mental health problems in a physical way, just as stress can. I know it's all linked. It's all part of a cycle in some people. But being stressed, being in a poor working position, having tight muscles, having lots of other stresses that maybe potentially cause you to have mental health issues, all that is linked back to how we work, how we live our lives, and what we do in a day. It's our habits, our lifestyles. Exercise forms part of it. Spending time with friends, family, pets, outdoors, all these things that you'd like to do when you're not working. It's trying to incorporate that into your working practice as well. Yeah.
And I guess, given your background as well, you're able to offer advice on other areas of your life which you spend a lot of time doing. So unlike someone that maybe just have studied ergonomics and is going in to talk about how your desk is set up, if I came to see you and I said, look, right, so Mike, if the way I work at the moment, I'm getting a bit of shoulder pain, etc., but you can ask me also about how I'm sleeping, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And that's very true. And I believe, and we believe at PostureWorx, that the workstation assessment part of a company's process should be different. It just should be, because you should just tie in and signpost all the other expertise you might have in your organization or other things that are brought into the organization at that point. And as you rightly said, it shouldn't go backwards where you just do the form and then 3 months later you start mentioning these other well-being initiatives you have that could help that person. Someone's onboarded to the organization and in week 2 they have their session and then they go through, okay, workstation setup, correct chair, correct screen, is it the right height, all the, as you know, the DSE assessment checklist stuff. But as part of that, the organization has its own add-ons to that process where they talk about, here's some other things we offer for mental health advice. Here's kind of some of our things we do for health and fitness. We also do a yoga class at lunchtime, and it's all tied in because really, as we said earlier, that workstation assessment really should be a lifestyle and workstation assessment, and just give it support. That's really there just to give support, isn't it? Make people feel good to work. Yeah, exactly.
And I noticed you did earlier this week. You did a post on onboarding, which is quite interesting because we're about to do a whole load of posts our end on onboarding as well, and it was facilitated really by a couple of posts that we saw, which you see from time to time on social media, of someone arrives at their new business and they get this onboarding pack now. Yeah, that's it. Right. And in this pack, someone, I won't mention the company, but someone had joined a new tech company last week, and they had this fantastic pack with a new Apple Mac Pro and various keyboards and mice and whatever, and some chocolates. Yep.
Or some chocolates in a nice packet. Yeah.
Yeah, and some alcohol and a bag, etc. And we looked at it and went, but there's nothing in there that actually necessarily, if that company's got a health and well-being policy or a health and well-being ideology in terms of how to look after that person, there's nothing in there that actually promotes that. So for start, from the next standpoint of view, there's the laptop, where's the laptop stand and the advice around how to use it?
Yeah.
Exactly. Why is there not a voucher in there for someone like yourself?
Yeah, or it's booked already. It's booked. It's online. You've got your session next Thursday with exactly.
Yeah. Where's your 6 months gym pass? Where's your Gusto or someone else healthy eating box or whatever subscription for the next? Get that person into the habits that you would like to promote to anybody within the company.
Yeah, and the good ones are doing it, aren't they? The good ones are doing it, and the ones that aren't so good, unfortunately, haven't caught on yet. That's what they need to be doing. Yeah, very true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was a fairly big company.
Really?
And yet
wow.
And yet you think, wow, this is just, yes, you're giving them things which, potentially give them immediate gratification, but what are you saying about the company culture within all of this? And I guess that's an interesting point to sort of leave on today, which is, what do you think youngsters looking at businesses through the eyes of Zoom or through the eyes of social media and online presence will be thinking about some of those employers and some of those companies, and potentially, am I going to join those workforces? Do you think it's all about money, or do you think?
Not at all. No, I'd say, in my opinion, the ones we speak to, I'd say the younger kind of new workforce, as it were, that's coming into the marketplace nowadays, it's much more a kind of the culture of the organization, and their values are held high above the financial kind of compensation they get for working there. And it needs to be kind of genuine. And they'll be able to, they can see through that relatively quickly most of the time. It's the culture around how people are working. Are they treated as kind of individuals, as part of a nice community, I would say. And that's a good way of looking at it. So what would you expect if that was going to be you? You'd expect, as you said, signposts to good things that they're doing that help you feel better while you work. We would love you to work as part of our organization. You're part of our family. These are the things we can do for you. This is how you're onboarded. This is what happens over the next year, and this kind of stuff. I think rather than just there's your paycheck, that's definitely gone out the window. Yeah, exactly.
So how much, just general feedback, but how much of people, if you've had like a young person starting in the business, and they've been through the process with you, and they've had sessions with you as they've come into the business. Just what kind of positive feedback have you had on that from people?
Yeah, most of the time we start our sessions when we do our online one-to-ones with, welcome to whoever the company is we're working with. We're PostureWorx. We're going to help you feel better while you work. Have you had one of these kind of sessions before? Where you have your workstation assessed. Say, I think is that I think I did once before, that checklist thing. I'm going to check how I'm sitting, kind of thing. We say, well, it's quite a bit more than that. We'll go through some lifestyle advice and make sure you're feeling great. Let's have a look. And we go through it, do our thing, and then they kind of go, oh, it's fantastic. I had some questions like that, and I didn't know who to ask. So it's more that kind of stuff. And then they feel valued, that they've kind of they're ready to go, and they've got those things ironed out before it comes to any problems down the line. Because unfortunately, people will just probably tick the box because they don't want to make a fuss, even if it's having pain 3 times a week with a headache and a bit of back pain, which you don't have to put up with that, really, and unless they're given the opportunity, like kind of genuine opportunity to get those things sorted, they will probably just tick the box because they don't really know what the system would be in place. Even if they said, yeah, I'm getting quite a bit of back pain, what do I do? Normally the organizations in the past kind of didn't really have the setup there to help them. Whereas now it's so much easier, with technology and equipment and advice like we can give, it's so much easier to help people. Yeah. So that's normally the feedback, is that normally they're kind of pleasantly surprised with what we gave and the advice we can give, as well as ticking all the boxes. They've got the right kit, it's positioned well, but there's all that lifestyle and exercise and kind of health and well-being stuff as well.
So we haven't set the date yet, but we're going to set a date very soon between you and I. But coming up in the next few weeks, myself and Mike, we're going to be doing a session. So if you're in management, if you're an HR manager, if you're in charge of people in your business, a well-being manager, whatever you want to call yourself these days, we're going to do a session. If you want to find out what a good onboarding process might look like for some of your members of staff, if you want to find out a little bit more about what a PostureWorx session might feel like, for a member of staff, and how that could really motivate your staff into really buying into your company culture, a positive company culture that it lasts a lot more than giving them a box of chocolates, then do look out for this session. I will put the link to that when I've done it onto this interview as well, but I will advertise it as well across LinkedIn and Twitter and everything else as well. It will be a free event. It won't be long. It will be enough time for you to meet us, just to get a little bit more understanding about what process is involved in using someone like PostureWorx to really enhance that first experience of working life for anybody, whether they've been at that business for a long time and they're just coming back from working from home into the office. And that's a big cultural change, which needs someone to be involved in that change at this moment of time, or whether you're taking on new staff and you're onboarding them into the business. It'd be really good for you to hear what it is that PostureWorx can offer. So we'll come up with a date for that.
Fantastic.
we
certainly will.
And we'll publicise that in the next few weeks. Mike, I hope people tune into this throughout the day. It's been live on LinkedIn. It's gone live on Twitter as well, which is, I know, where probably Greg's picked it up from. It's
Fabulous.
Also available on YouTube as well. I will actually make sure that you have the YouTube link to repurpose as well. And no doubt people, as they catch on to this throughout the day, will have questions, etc., for both Mike and myself. If you do, just put them in the comments and we will get back to you with any kind of feedback that you need. But for now, thanks Mike for joining me.
No problem at all. Good to see you, Graham. Have a good day.
And you. Bye-bye.
Bye.